All right, folks, so let's quickly get started. I'm Shefi. I'm program manager for AppSource. I see a few familiar faces in the room. Hopefully you're all here to actually learn more about AppSource, what are we doing with AppSource, what's available in AppSource today, and talk about what's coming next, our roadmap and things like that. Okay? First things first. I'm guessing you guys are pretty familiar with the opportunity for SaaS apps that's out there. So historically, finding business applications has been a very IT-driven experience where the IT actually goes out there, trying to find the apps that's there, trying to see what works for them. But over time, we have seen the transition or a switch from it being very IT-focused to business end users trying to come in and find the right apps that work for them. So that's basically where AppSource comes in picture, where we actually say, as a business end user who's trying to find a solution for the problem that they're trying to address, you come to AppSource, you get to find the solution for that. So what that means is, it can be apps that's actually running on the Microsoft platform, or an extension to Microsoft platform. Let it be extension to CRM, or let's say apps on AX, or Madeira, or financials. So irrespective of it being operations, sales, apps for those. On top of that, what AppSource also has is apps from our ISVs, which can actually be SaaS apps, which is running on Azure. Or let's say for some reason there are apps, and we know there are apps out there which is running on, let's say, AWS or any other cloud that's out there. You can still find those applications on AppSource as long as those applications meet the listing criteria that we have put out there. So there's a huge opportunity for SaaS applications for a business end user to come, try, discover, and find. And that's where AppSource comes into picture. So it basically helps the end users or the business users, give them one place for them to go, find the application that's going to help them solve the business problem for a business end user. So with that said, what's the primary goal of AppSource? So what we try to do is we try to make it as simple as possible for a business end user to come in, discover the app, easily find for it, like search for it, filter it, get to an app that basically, get to a line of business application that basically helps them solve the business problem. So that's the first goal. The second goal is basically ability for the end user to quickly get started with these apps, because we do understand that as a business end user, you might not have creds to the various systems that's out there. Or let's say you might not have access to a subscriptions, and you might not need to have to sign up for 5 different things before you can actually come experience the app. So that's where AppSource comes in, and we actually say, we want to make it as easy and as seamless as possible for a business end user to not just discover apps, but also start trying it out, see if it makes sense for them before they even involve the IT and say, hey, I like this app. Can I get this installed in my instance, in my sandbox instance, and see how it works? And finally, we do have a very good ecosystem of Microsoft users out there, be it Dynamics 365, or even apps that's built on Office, or even apps that's built on, let's say, other platforms from Microsoft like Cortana Intelligence and whatnot. So we actually want to make it easy for a business user to actually come to this one place to actually find this application that works with the platform that they're already using. Some way for an end user to come in, discover these applications, extend the platform that they as an organization have already invested in to get more value out of it than having to go find an entirely different suite of applications to solve the business problem. So AppSource thus becomes like this glue that ties, that sticks all this together with respect to the various platforms within Microsoft, and an ability to actually find applications that actually extend this platform to make it more meaningful and more useful for a business end user. And how does AppSource fit into the bigger picture, right? The picture with respect to the various platforms and stacks that's out there from Microsoft. So as you can see here, this basically talks about where AppSource fits in. So as you can see here, down there we have the Azure stack. So we do have ISVs, we do have apps that's actually built natively on Azure platform, which actually becomes available and discoverable through AppSource. Or it can even be apps that's actually, let's say, built on top of Microsoft Flow, Power Apps, or CDS. So irrespective of how the application is built, or the various platforms and components that actually come together to actually solve the problem, it gets listed on Microsoft AppSource. So this can also be, like I said earlier, the extensions or apps that's actually built on top of Dynamics 365 ecosystem. It can be for sales, it can be for customer service, it can be for operations. Or how many of you have actually seen Cortana applications on AppSource? Anyone? Okay, very few. Okay, so a few weeks ago, we also started onboarding apps that actually leverages the CIS or the Cortana intelligence platform to be on AppSource. So what it means is, if there is apps that actually uses Cortana intelligence, or if it is actually intelligent apps, those can also be found on AppSource. So irrespective of which platform you use from Microsoft or which ecosystem you integrate with, this becomes this front and center place for those apps to be discoverable, for those apps to be listed, and it becomes this one place where the business end user can actually come and find these applications. And again, there are Power BI content packs that's out there, there are a few IoT applications that's out there, there are Office extensions and whatnot. So this is how AppSource fits into this bigger picture with respect to where does AppSource help our end users. So as long as you guys have this picture in mind, hopefully this session is totally worth it. So the next set that I want to talk about, which I'm sure will interest quite a few folks here, is what are the various personas that AppSource deals with, right? First and foremost, we want to make sure that the business end users can actually discover the applications that they are looking for. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we help ISVs become successful. Because there are ISVs out there who actually build a lot of these cool applications. They want some way to actually market and distribute these applications, find the customers for the application that an ISV writes. And that's where AppSource comes in picture, and we also we want to make sure that the applications and all the goodness that you as an ISV build is made available to the end users where the end users are. So I'll do a quick demo of the in-app experiences that we have lighted up and all that. So as an ISV, we want to make sure that we give you an avenue through which you can actually come in, meet the listing criteria, and finally be listed and become this one place where your application is available for it to be discovered, for it to be consumed and used. The third pillar is from a business application space, and considering that I've been in the business application space for a while, we know that not every application, especially in the business apps places, I say it, install, and I get to work. There's always an SI story in picture. There is always a system integrator who comes in who actually customizes it for the end user. There is always a little bit of a customization that happens before the application goes live. So AppSource is also the place for the SIs to be listed for the corresponding apps. So what that means is, if there are apps on AppSource that you as a system integrator supports, you can actually be listed in AppSource after you get the sponsorship from an ISV. So if there are ISVs that you work with, and if their apps are on AppSource, you can actually come to AppSource and get your SI profile listed against this application in AppSource. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick demo of what that experience will look like. Okay. So this is how we like to call out the AppSource opportunity. So AppSource is not just a place where you actually come and list your apps. So this also talks about the investment that we are making as Microsoft and as AppSource. So today, you come to AppSource, you build your applications for, let's say, Dynamics 365, for operations, for sales or financials, and you come and list on AppSource. But what we are investing heavily right now, and I'll also do a quick demo towards the end, is something called AppSource Toolkit. So what AppSource Toolkit is, it basically gives you an ability to quickly start putting the apps together. So as you can imagine, if you go back to that the stack I talked about, which is basically it can start with Azure with the Power App CDS layer on the top, with the Dynamics 365 pieces. So if you're trying to build application that actually leverages these various components from Microsoft, or these various applications from Microsoft, we have a preview program that's in progress right now. It's actually called AppSource quote-unquote solutions, surprise. But yes, so that basically gives you an ability to start putting these various pieces of the puzzle together and actually build an application that uses the various components of the Microsoft stack, and finally get listed on AppSource. So that's where, first and foremost, the ability to basically build, package, and finally provision these applications directly from AppSource. So that way, this becomes this one way that you can actually start putting the various components together, easily come to AppSource, list it on AppSource, and go to market faster than how you've been doing in the past. The second piece of investment is, of course, expanding your reach. So as an ISV, if you have an app, the primary goal for you is making sure you find the customers who need your app. And we as Microsoft, we want to make sure we help you find the customers that actually are looking for your app. So this is where we are actually investing heavily with respect to making sure your apps are actually surfaced where the end users are, which is, of course, the in-app experience. On top of that, the various events we run, the blog posts, the social engagement. So we actually make sure that once you're listed on AppSource, that's just the start of your journey. So you as an ISV are listed there. Now let's collaborate with you. Now let's work with you to actually make sure that you find the best value with being an AppSource. So the third piece there which you actually see is accelerate the customer journey. So right now what we support is free trials. So what that means is you as an ISV can actually come in, list your app on AppSource, and the business end user can actually get a free trial of your application even before they actually engage with you. So what that means is the business user try to get a feel of the application, see how best it fits you, and by the time you guys actually go in to actually make the sale, the user has already had an experience with the app. So it tremendously helps you reduce what we call the time to close a deal. That way you can actually get to the customers faster. The customers can discover this applications faster and start seeing value with it. And once you're in AppSource, what do you get? We actually provide insights. I'm guessing few of you have started seeing insights we send from AppSource. So over the last few weeks, we have started sending insights from AppSource to our ISVs, which basically tells them, how is your app doing in the marketplace? How do you stack against the various similar applications in the marketplace? How many page views does your application get? How many ratings and reviews do your application get? So we actually work closely with ISVs to actually give them actionable insight, which you can leverage to improve your apps. Like let's say, for instance, you're getting a ton of page views, which means your app is in huge demand. But no one is actually, let's say, clicking the primary CTA, which is basically try. It's probably because maybe the marketing content out there is not appealing to them. So we actually work with ISVs to actually make sure that they get actionable insights, which they can work on. And the final piece there is basically cross-sell with Microsoft. So a few applications that's on AppSource gets enabled for cross-sell on our side based on the demand we're seeing and multiple other factors. With that enabled, we basically work hand in hand with Microsoft Field to actually sell the application that's actually listed on AppSource. I guess that was a lot of talking, right? So let me just quickly do a demo of a few things, and then I'll come back to the slides. Does it sound good? Okay. How many of you have not seen AppSource? Okay, just one. There you go. So, all right. So let me just pull up. And if you guys have not seen AppSource, it's super easy, appsource.com. This is going to be pretty interesting since I don't have a screen here. Okay. Let me just try duplicating the screen. That might be a little better. I have quite a few demos to do, so I don't want to have to keep looking there. All right, so first and foremost, appsource.com. This is basically the place where you can actually come in. You can come in, search, filter. You as an end user can come in, search, filter, and all the goodness. I'm guessing some of you might be wondering, how do these apps get here? How many of you have actually gone through a publishing experience for an app? Do the rest of you guys want to know how the apps get here? Okay, so I'll start with the story around how the apps get here. Then I'll jump into the customer's experience of finding the app. Then I'll jump into an ISV experience of what do you see when an app is being tried. Sound good? Okay. First and foremost, this is going to be my call to action at the end of the session as well. If you have apps that you want to list on AppSource, you as an ISV can go to list on AppSource, review all the goodness of that you get by listing on AppSource, review the app review guidelines, review the app review guidelines, review the partner listing guidelines, and finally submit your app. So this starts the journey for you with respect to actually getting listed on AppSource. This lets us know that you're interested to be listed. Post that's done, we have a very good onboarding team that actually works very closely with you, and also the various product teams involved. Like if you are building an app for AX or D365 operations, we actually work with the operations team to certify your app. If it's for sales, we do the same. Financials, we do the same. But this basically initiates a journey with respect to actually creating an app for AppSource. So once you fill this up, what actually happens is we review your submission, we go through what needs to happen, we basically route you appropriately with respect to if your primary app that you're building on is a D365 app, we actually route you through the D365 team. If it is financials, we route you to the financial team. Sales, we route you to the sales team. And you actually go through the process where you create an app for the product itself, because at the end of the day, AppSource is not just a marketing place. It needs software behind the scenes, right? Like it needs to have IP. So that's where you actually work through with these various teams involved. Or let's say you're actually building a native Azure SaaS app. Sure. Even in that case, there is a listing criteria you need to meet. And we actually route you through the right set of certifying personas to actually get your app certified. So what that means is once you build your app, it actually goes through rigorous validation from our side based on the product you're building the app for. And once that those teams or the certifying authorities feel like, hey, your app is good to go, they meet the criteria that we're looking for. It might be code quality, it might be business processes or whatnot. Once it meets this criteria, they actually start working with you to publish your app. Okay? And this is what we call as, how many of you have actually seen this publishing portal? Very few. Perfect. Okay. So I see some familiar faces here in the audience here, and we've been receiving feedback around, hey, the publishing experience is a little rough. It's hard for us to update the app and things like that. So this is a new publishing portal that we are working on. So this basically gives you an ability to publish your app in a very easy and seamless fashion. So when you start working with us and when your app is ready to be published and it meets the criteria, we basically give you access to this portal, which is called the publishing portal. And as you can see here, this publishing portal basically is going to be your bread and butter for your interaction with AppSource. So be it the marketing material that you want to post with respect to your offer description, your summary, your app name, where does it work, the type of trials that you want to do from AppSource, the country, region, everything else, including your logos and all of that. This is where you actually start entering the information. So if you guys are wondering, how do I get my app on AppSource? You certify your app, you get it ready, you get access to this portal, you start uploading all of this marketing content, all of that into the portal here. That's one. The second thing is, like I said earlier, your app is not just about the marketing content. There is also technical aspects that come into being. If it's an operation solution, there is LCS solutions you need to build. If it is a CRM or a sales solution, they're there. There are packages you need to build. So this is where you actually start coming in and you actually start uploading the various technical assets that make up the solution. Yes?
We've already started publishing an app in the old portal. Can we finish it in the new one? Because as you said, the experience is quite rough.
Yep. Okay, so the question here is, our friend here has actually started publishing the app in the old portal. Can we switch to the new portal? Sadly, no. You can't do it right now because we don't support workloads across portals. So what that means is, for which product are you building the app for? Okay, so the app is being built for D365 for operations. D365 for operations is still in the old portal. So whenever we actually migrate it to the new portal, which will also mean that we will move the data over for you and all that. But once that's done, you will be able to start making tweaks and changes in the new portal. Just so you guys know, I know most of you might not be able to use it right now, but we have been doing a preview of this portal, and this is also based on all the learnings that we got working with you with respect to how rough the experience is. Okay. So that gives me a good segue to actually switch to a couple of things that I want to talk about here is storefront details. Let me just quickly scroll down. And talk about the lead management. So why are you listing your app on AppSource? At the end of the day, you want to know who is interested in your app, right? Like you want to know which customers are interested in your app, who is trying out your app. So what we do in AppSource is when you list your app, you actually give us your CRM information, which basically tells us where do you want us to write the lead for your application. So let's say you have an application for D365 for operations, and someone comes and shows interest for your application. So these are the various CRM systems we support. Dynamics CRM, of course, Mercado, Salesforce, and let's say you don't use any of those, you're a very small ISV, you can even give us a table as your table, and we can write the leads there. So this becomes part of the process where we actually want to make sure that the leads that we send from AppSource or the interested customers that we send from AppSource becomes part of your standard nurturing process. So that you don't need to do anything special to actually integrate with AppSource. So when you start getting leads from AppSource, they go into your system. I'll do a quick demo of how that's going to look like. And you can actually start sending out your nurturing emails, reaching out to them, triaging them, and then following up on the opportunity. So that's the new portal. Sadly, not a lot of you guys can access it. Now I'm going to go to the old portal, which we very fondly refer to as the orange portal in our world because of the color. Yes?
Do you have any idea of the timeline when the new portal will be coming for Dynamics 365?
So the question here is, do we have a timeline on when the new portal will be there for Dynamics 365? Based on the visibility that I have from my viewpoint, not in the next 2 to 3 months. Okay. So this is an old portal, which I'm guessing a lot of you might be familiar with, which you are actually using to publish your app. Again, experience is pretty similar. The only difference is it's not structured well. So you have to go through multiple nodes and trying to figure out where do I put in the logo, where do I put in the marketing content and all that. But we have a very good onboarding team who will basically work with you to, if you get lost, we have set up a survey and things like that which you can fill up, which we use to actually help you quickly onboard. Okay? But this is our the old portal that you might be or would be using right now to publish your app. Okay, so you come here, you basically, let me just switch back here. You come here, you basically put in your marketing content, you publish your app. Once you publish your app, what basically happens is your app, after the various certification curation, starts showing up in AppSource. Okay, so that's all goodness. And like I said, this is the start of a journey. So once the app shows up in AppSource, it becomes available for search, it becomes available for filter, and all the goodness that you can imagine. A business end user comes to AppSource, and they can find the app. So what I want to spend a little bit of a time here is also, one is, yes, AppSource.com, right, which is, we want we want all the millions of users out there to remember AppSource.com, and that's not always true because it's a website that's out there. It's not part of their core day-to-day activity. So what we also do with AppSource is we make sure that the app you list on AppSource is not just available on AppSource.com, but it's also available where the end users are. So what it basically means is if it's a D365 user who is in the D365 shell or it's in CRM or whatnot, your app will get listed across the ecosystem where the Microsoft end users are. So as you can see here, even this experience, which is within the home.dynamics.com, is actually powered by AppSource. Even if I actually go to, let's say, powerbi.com, and let me sign in. Hopefully it's not going to make me do the multi-factor. I don't think it does. But when I actually come here, guess what? Not a lot of users actually recognize this, but even this is powered by AppSource. So irrespective of where the business end user is, like once you list with AppSource, your app becomes available for any business end user that's out there in the Microsoft ecosystem. And this is something that we actually consciously do, and this is also something that we do to actually drive usage on our side and also make sure that your app is shown and showcased to every end user that's out there, and it becomes discoverable. And we're also thinking and working on additional intelligent things like Can we do things like recommendations where we can actually go in and say, hey, we know you're trying to do something in this specific module. We have these 5 other apps for you which might help you do things better. So those are the additional benefits that we can leverage and we can build in the future with integrations like this, where we can actually get very contextual, give contextual recommendations to our end users saying, we know you're trying to do this. This app might help you do this better. So now I'm going to come back to AppSource.com, and I actually want to do a demo of one of the experience, or rather the 3 experiences to begin with. So when you list an app on AppSource, right, there are 3 CTAs or 3 call to actions that actually shows up for your app. The first one is basically trial. So this is where it's almost like a free trial. So if your app, if your app actually supports and enables a trial experience where a business end user can quickly come in and try an app, that becomes the first CTA. The second CTA, which some of our ISVs prefer to do, is basically get, or that's almost like a free app. Like some of our ISVs or even Microsoft has an application that's out there which you want to give for free for our customers to start using. So those are the apps that you actually see with a free or a get. And finally, the third CTA, which a few of the operations apps have on AppSource, is basically request trial, or we are doing some experiments now. It's called Contact Me. So that Contact Me is about, it doesn't give the end user the software up front, but it basically gives an end user a way to show interest in your application, and you get a lead in your system which you can leverage to actually establish a connection with the customer, make a pitch for your app, do a demo, and finally make the sale. So just from so our team is very much a data-driven team, and based on the data that we are seeing, there are how do I put it? Most of our end users who's trying to acquire an app gets an app that actually has a trial or a get enabled. Guess why? Because when was the last time any of you filled up a form to get a software, right? Because all of us want to actually come in, see the software. They are okay to actually share the lead with you if I'm getting software, but I just don't want to fill up a form. So we are working very closely with the operations team to actually enable trial experiences through AppSource as well, since we know some of you are restricted there because of the platform support we have in operations as well. So we are working very closely with operations to enable trials. But those are the 3 primary CTAs we have for AppSource. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do a demo of 2 types of apps. The first one will be a fully SaaS app, which is hosted and created by the ISV. And the second one will be, probably I'll do 3 demos. Okay, so the second one will be an app which is basically an extension which can be installed from AppSource. And the third one will basically be for operations, which is going to open up a form that's going to ask me to fill up the form. Okay, so first and foremost, one thing that actually we enforce in AppSource across the board, be it Azure applications, be it applications running in AWS, be it extension to first parties, you need to enable AAD Single Signon. If you're building extensions for operations or sales, you get that for free because the platform is already AAD enabled, so you don't need to do anything special there. But if you are building an application which is, let's say, which integrates with operations but has a SaaS front end, or let's say it's natively built on top of Azure, or it's even running in AWS, we don't care. We want to make sure that your application is made available to end users. So if you integrate with AAD, your app can get listed on AppSource. So as you can see here, I'm logged in with my AAD account, and I come here. Let's just say that I'm looking for an application for a public sector. So this is one of our app from our ISVs, which is called AppPoint. This is for citizen services. So cities and states uses, which basically allows citizens to report issues. So as you can see here, I come here, this kind of makes sense. This is also the goodness that you get when you list with AppSource with respect to ability to put in the marketing content you want. You get to customize it. You can put in the documents. You can put in the images, videos, and all the goodness. I come here. This makes sense. I want a free trial of this application. So I want to spend some time on the screen here because this ties to a few things we talked about earlier. So as you see here, this is very subtle. This basically says I agree to these terms. This is where you as an ISP can actually provide your terms. So because especially when you do trials, we know that there is IP and software that's actually being shown to an end user. So you get to put your terms out here. So we show the terms to the end user. And what we also do is we take the consent from the user to actually write a lead into your CRM system, the CRM system we talked about earlier. I hope you guys remember that. So this is where we actually get the consent, and we actually write the lead into the CRM system, and I'll switch to CRM and show how that is going to look like. As you can see here, I'm saying I consent to the terms. I say continue. So this is a pure SaaS application. So as you can see here, the ISV has worked with us. They have listed an endpoint for us to call in. We pass in the user context. So one thing to remember here is there was no sign-in screens. I mean, there was no sign-up screens. There was no extra sign-ups I need to do. There was no additional term from the ISVs that I need to accept. It's all part of this one smooth standard experience. And we want to make sure, irrespective of which app an end user is discovered within AppSource, the experience remains the same, so that the experience for an end user is very predictable with respect to what he or she can expect when they actually click that CTA button, agree to the terms, and what are they going to get. And as you can see here, they've done a very good job with respect to, since it's a trial, they've done a very good job with respect to how they actually showcase the capabilities. They're saying, I'm a business end user who's coming in from a city. I might be a decision maker in a city or someone in the mayor's office trying to find an application for my citizens to use. So what's going to be a citizen experience? What's going to be a field engineer experience? What's going to be an internal view? So let me just open up a few of these so that it's just up and running. Look at that, just switch the language for me. Okay. So yeah, so this becomes the experience that an end user gets with respect to what am I going to actually see when I go into the app. So as you can see here, this gives me the various options around how do I report a vehicle, an abandoned vehicle, how do I report a graffiti issue, or let me just switch the language here. I know I see a few faces. Oh, I can't switch the language, which is weird. Okay, so one thing to note here is the ISVs do update their app on a monthly basis, actually. So as you can see here, this basically has all the goodness with respect to how I can actually go ahead and experience the app. And again, this is built on Azure. It uses a lot of Azure services, as you can imagine. It uses website, it uses IoT, it uses ML, it uses SQL databases, it uses data streams. So this is an application that actually leverages a multitude of Microsoft services, and they have actually put all of this together. Like one of the very, very good scenarios for them is what they actually do is, especially since this is for a city, and reporting a non-working street light is a very common scenario, right? And historically, that has been a very manual process. So if you don't see a street light working, you as a person needs to go somewhere and report it, and then that issue gets reported. The field engineer has the task that's assigned to them, and finally, someone comes and fixes it. So what they have done is they have actually integrated with IoT. So if a street light does not turn on for, let's say, 48 hours, it automatically files a case in the CRM system for a field engineer to take a look at. So as you can see here, this app was built using the various Microsoft technologies. So it uses CRM, it uses Azure, it uses Power BI, and a bunch of things. So you can start putting things like this together. So this is where the AppSource solutions or the AppSource Toolkit that I talked about comes in picture. Yes.
Is this demo now limited to that specific user or users from that tenant? Can you share the URL with whomever?
So the question here is this demo just for the specific user, or can he or she share the URL? So what they have done here is the instance is basically hosted, and you can actually share the AppSource URL. So one screen that did not show up, it's because I went through the flow earlier, is basically there's a consent flow, which AD kicks in. So it's almost similar to, I'm guessing you have, at least a few of you have installed some apps on Facebook, like let's say Candy Crush. And when you try to install that app, it actually shows a pop-up that says, hey, this app is trying to read your profile. And you say yes. So there's a similar consent workflow that kicks in. But once the consent goes through, the user gets access to the app. Okay. So where AppSource solutions or the toolkit comes into picture is we basically work with ISVs to actually help build things like this faster. Because we do understand that if you want to build something on CRM, the CRM details are stored somewhere. You want to CRM documentation, SDKs, or if you want to build something with Azure, the Azure SDKs are somewhere, the Power BI details are somewhere else. You need to find all of that together. We need to host an instance like this. You need to actually manage this trial instance. You need to make sure that you refresh the instance. You need to make sure you recycle the instance. So it becomes a management overhead for an ISV to actually build something like this and put something like this and manage something like this. So where AppSource Solutions comes into picture is you can actually build an app similar to this, and you can actually register that with AppSource, saying, hey, I have an app, and I'm actually going to make it available for trial through AppSource. I want to make 3 trial instances available. I want to maintain a pool of 3 trial instances. Give the app for an end user to try for 3 hours or 4 hours. At the end of 4 hours, tear that down. So that's something that you can do with AppSource right now, which is a preview program that we're talking about. So to actually do a quick demo of that, what I want to do is I want to basically jump to an app in AppSource, which we just shipped last week. So this app is from one of the partners called Neal Analytics. And this is a very new CTA, or the call to action that we actually ship. So this is basically for inventory optimization. And this app uses, as you can imagine, a bunch of Azure components. It uses machine learning. It uses Power BI for reporting and a lot of stuff. And for an ISV like Neal Analytics to actually put an app like this together, which is similar to the AppPoint experience we saw, they will need to maintain a pool of instances, right? Like you rightly said, someone comes in and someone tries it. They need to assign the user somewhere. They need to make sure that the user get access only for a fixed number of hours, because these are running in Azure and you don't want to accrue cogs for it, right? So you want to tear it down. You want to make sure that you actually nurture the user. You want to make sure that the user is given access, removed access, manage the instance, and all of that. So we are trying to make that easy for an ISV. So what that means is an end user comes here. I'm going to walk through the end user experience, and then I'll switch to what the ISV did with us. An end user comes in and they actually says, hey, I want to do a test drive. Very similar experience like I talked earlier. And when I say continue here, it says setting up your test drive. So what this is basically doing is it's basically, so this ISV has worked with us. They have given us the ARM template and a few other things like Power BI instances and whatnot. And they are asking Microsoft to manage the pool for them. They're actually registering the software with us and saying, hey, you know what? I want to make this available for test drive through AppSource. I want to make it available for 4 hours. When an end user comes in, take one from the pool that you are managing as Microsoft, land the user into a trial experience, and let us know who's interested. And how did all of this happen? So it again goes back to the publishing portal we talked about earlier. Again, most of you might not be using this node right now. So we do have SaaS, we do have CRM nodes and all that. A few weeks ago, we enabled a node called Test Drive. So Test Drive is basically where you will actually start registering your interest to do something similar to what you just saw here. So as you can see here, Neal has come to us and said, hey, you know what? I want to do a trial experience like AppPoint, which is basically a hosted trial. I want to allow the user to land into a trial, experience the product. At the end of that, I want to tear it down and be done with it. But I don't want to basically invest in IT. Having an IT guy who's basically going to spin up the instances, tear down the instances, reset the instance and all that. Do you have something? And we're like, sure, let's help you with that. So that's how this was put together. So as Neal, they worked with us, and I need to be very careful when I scroll down because there is some data there that I don't want to show. There we go. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm actually talking about the section towards the lower half. I hope you guys can see it in the back. So it basically says, how many hours do you want to give the trial for? How many hot instances do you want to keep? Because for trials, what we also try to do is, as you saw now, the end user came in, he clicked trial. We don't want to make him wait for a long time because the end user is going to lose it. They are going to lose the interest. So they can actually register with us saying, hey, keep 2 hot instances running so that first 2 of my concurrent users will get a quick, fast trial. But let's say for some reason, I have enough demand after my session here, and there's a lot of people who's going to go try this app. Do allow a maximum concurrent instance of 10. So what they're saying is, if I have 10 users coming in parallel, spin off 10 instances on the fly. Make those instances available for those 10 users to sign in and use. And after 10, what happens? We do register the lead with the partner, but we let you know that, hey, all trial instances are being used. And as you can imagine, we are actually deploying these apps in the fly. Like we have their ARM templates and any additional components that make up their app. Once they register the ARM templates and anything else, so in future this can include the CRM extensions, probably financials extensions and all of that. So you come and register with us. You tell us how many instances you want us to manage. We manage the pool for you. When a user comes in, we land the user into that trial experience. We give them the experience that they are expecting to get. And once that's done, we actually remove the user from the instance. And to actually show that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump into a few. So again, where does this come handy? So if the ISV was building something like this on their own, nurturing is part of the whole story, right? Like a user getting an app is one thing where they actually go with it. But when they get the app, we need to give them an experience where they can actually understand what they are trying to do, see what they're trying to do. So this comes as well free for the ISV. So they actually give us the configurations and things that we need to actually send out emails like this. And when I landed in the trial right now, I would have received an email similar to this, which also includes customizations and the configurations that the ISV has given us, saying, hey, when someone is test driving this application, please send out this PDF. Because me as an ISV feels like the PDF with the app will give me a better experience, better selling experience for my app basically. So that's where the whole story comes together with respect to the fact that we are not just a marketplace where you can actually start listing your app. We work very closely with ISV to actually make sure that there's a trial experience that's enabled for you. That way the ISVs are successful and the customers actually also get a very good experience with respect to what the app is. So the next demo that I want to do here is, I want to actually just show you guys what does an ISV get, right? Like I just went through the trial experience and I actually said, hey, I agree to the terms. I just took the software for a spin. So when you as an ISV, when you register your CRM instance with us, if you use Dynamics CRM, that's what I have up here, or it can be Mercato, Salesforce, and whatnot. So irrespective of which CRM system you use, when an end user consents to the terms, and when we give the software, we write the leads into the CRM system. So that's what you see here. So the leads of the trial that I just did will be written to the CRM system, and it actually gives me as an ISV the ability to see who is trying my leads. It becomes part of my, again, like I said earlier, my standard nurturing process. My sales team can start looking at it. If I'm a geo-divided team, I can start triaging this, assigning it to the various sales teams to take action on it and all that. And again, this is not a Microsoft CRM system, but this is an ISV CRM system. Okay. The next demo that I want to do here is, now that we have done the demo of a hosted trial, what I want to do next is I basically want to do a demo of a D365 app. So this is where it actually says a free trial. So I don't think I have an instance in this account, but I'm just going to click it anyways, but I'm sure it's going to fail. Okay, so again, like I said, as an end user, a very consistent experience, irrespective of which product they're trying, which platform it's built on. You find an app, you like it, I agree to the terms, I'm going to actually say, hey, I want to get this software. At this point, what's actually happening is similar to us taking the user to a hosted trial instance. I'm being redirected to my CRM instance, and I don't think I have a CRM instance with my Microsoft account, but it's just going to land into the installation page and probably a route there. But this basically tells you the second set of apps that we have, which is basically extensions to the platform themselves. So this can be, let's say you're acquiring a Power BI content pack. It can be as simple as a Power BI content pack to a very heavyweight CRM application, like, let's say, TriBridge for healthcare and things like that. So this basically shows you an experience with respect to what you can do with AppSource. So if you are a CRM ISV or a D365 for sales ISV, when you actually work with us to get your app listed, this is what the experience is going to be. So you get your app listed there, a business end user comes in, consents to have access to the terms and conditions and any additional legal aspects. And then finally, I can pick the CRM instance or a D365 for sales instance I want and click install. At this point, I don't have access to instance and I don't want to install the DocuSign plug into one of my instances. So, okay. And the third set of applications that I want to talk to you guys about is applications which basically enable the CTA called Contact Me. So this is what we earlier used to actually refer to as request trial. So at this point, there is a software behind the scenes. There is certification curation that's happened, and folks who are working with D365 for Operations Gang knows about the rigorous certification that happens for LCS solutions and all that. So once that's done, we basically gives you an option to actually get your app listed here. But the only difference here, which we're trying to improve, is this is what I was talking about. So once your app gets listed here, when an end user is interested, and when he clicks Contact Me, it basically gives you an option to fill up the form, which includes the contact information, your job title, company, country, phone number, and you can actually submit this request. So at this point, again, similar story continues. We take this lead, we write this lead into your CRM system, and the ISV gets the lead that they can walk through. The only difference, though, is the usage that we are seeing for apps like this is really low. So of the 10 leads that we generate, or the 10 acquisitions that happen on a daily basis, only one of those 10 is someone filling up the form. It's, again, because of folks don't like delayed gratification or even filling up a form to get software, basically. But hopefully once we move towards a more of a trial experience, you will see goodness and more leads coming from AppSource. Okay. So I know I briefly touched upon this in my intro slides, but what I want to talk about now, and I've been very much focused on ISVs, and are there any SIs in the room here, system integrators? All right, so this section is going to be just for you. Okay, so as you can see here, Berry Park is one of the ISVs that we work with. They have their app listed, and as you can imagine, they might not be able to scale across the globe to install this Berry Park to all the customers across the globe. So what they actually do is they work with a set of SIs or partners who can actually implement this app for them. So for instance, Cyber, Wipro, and the other SI that's out here actually comes in and implements this Berry Park app. So the benefit here is when an end user, let's say, comes in and discovers the app and he takes it for a free trial, similar to what we talked about, if they already have an existing relationship with these partners, they know that, hey, I just need to reach out to this partner and get this installed for me. Or it also gives them a sense of confidence that, hey, you know what? It's not just some app from someone, but it's actually backed by well-known SIs or partners who can actually come and implement it for me. And guess what? There are partners who are in my geo who can actually help me. So as you can see here, let's say I go here. For this partner, we actually show the various locations. You can go through and see what are the various competencies the partner has and things like that. So this kind of reinforces the fact that, hey, I'm not alone. I know I'm going to try this app, but if I want to make it real for my company, I don't need to basically try to figure it out on my own. I do, and I will get help from these partners who can actually help me make this app real for me. Okay, so now let me switch gear and go back to my slides. All right. So this basically talks about the various platforms and apps that we have in AppSource today. We have apps for Microsoft Dynamics 365, which is what the conference is about. So if you guys have apps that's actually on D365, you want to get that listed on AppSource, I'm hoping you guys know where to get started on that. Yes? If you have content packs, if you have web apps, which is basically apps that is running on Azure or even AWS or somewhere else, which is hosted apps. We talked about this. You list an AppSource, your apps are surfaced in app. Okay, so now what I'm going to talk to you guys about is what's coming next. What's our roadmap? Okay, and standard disclaimer, just to make sure that I'm covered, you're covered, we're all good. So this basically makes sure that no screen captures at this point, please. And I see someone taking a screen capture of this, which is good. Okay. The dates and the capabilities are subject to change and all that. Okay. So where are we investing? And where do we see AppSource going weeks and months from now? Okay, this you can take a picture of. Don't worry about it. Okay, so these are the 4 pillars where we actually are heavily investing at this point in time. One is building intelligent apps. So this goes back to the quick demo I did for you guys earlier. So if you want to build an app that actually leverages multiple components from Microsoft, do come talk to me after the session. I will get you guys added to the preview program that basically helps you build an app like the Neal Analytics demo that I did, where you can actually, you have an ARM template, you have a CRM component, you have a Power BI component, you want to put it all together, you want to actually build this nice, cool app. Work with us. We'll work with you to actually help you build it, package it, and finally make it available through AppSource. What's the second set? What's the second investment that we're doing heavily? So this is what we actually call accelerate business transformation. So at this point, as you saw, if you go to AppSource today, you can try apps, you can discover app, it gives you lead. But again, it helps you meet the first goal, which is basically let us know who the customers are, help us get to our customers faster, help you reduce time to close a deal. But we also want to help you actually not just to close a deal. We want to help you get to your pilot phase faster. We want to help you get to your production phase faster. So you will see us investing heavily with respect to the fact that once your app is listed on AppSource, while trial is one aspect, you will see us making investments which you can actually leverage, like the solution you saw earlier from Neal Analytics, which you can use to start doing pilots faster. Because if we can deploy things on the fly, the way that you guys just saw, and we can actually tear things down, why don't we make that available for an ISV to actually start leveraging that for your pilot? Like, let's say you get 5 leads from AppSource, and let's say 2 of them materializes, and now you have to deploy an application which has Azure components plus, let's say, D365 sales and probably some Power BI aspects. Now you need to fly someone down with this huge document that basically outlines the various steps he needs to follow to set that up. But if we open up what we did for Neal Analytics there, you will be able to leverage that to actually do your pre-sales and pilot deployments and all that. So that's one area which you will see us invest heavily, not just for our existing workloads, but also for the future workloads as well. Like when you see us add Power Apps to AppSource, when you see us add CDS to AppSource, you will see us building capabilities where an end user can come in, try these apps from AppSource, and also acquire it from AppSource, which uses Power Apps, CDS, and Flow. And one thing that I actually missed here when I talked about the workload is, how many of you here actually have a Power App? Okay, so we started working with selected set of ISVs who wants to collaborate with us to actually get their Power App listed on AppSource. So the new workload that's coming in a few weeks or months from now is basically going to be Power Apps. So if you have a Power App that you guys have invested in and you want to find a front to sell that, to showcase it in AppSource, do reach out to me post this session, and I'll connect you with the folks so that you can actually package your Power App and make it available for discovery through AppSource. The third one, the third point that I want to reinforce here is actionable insights, right? Like as you as an ISV, the main reason why you are listing on AppSource is to get the best of the marketplace. So what that means is we need to tell you how you are doing. So you will see us do tremendous investments with respect to reports that is self-serve. So instead of right now, it's an email we sent out to ISV saying, hey, these are your reviews and ratings. These are your insights. This is how your app is doing. But you will see us build dashboards and things like that, which will be self-serve for you to come get insights around where does my app land? Which percentile is my app with respect to similar apps in AppSource? How is my app doing in the industry category that I have and things like that? And finally, we are working closely with our end users. How many of you know that we have reviews and ratings enabled in AppSource? Have you guys received any reviews and ratings? No? Okay. So we have started data collection for reviews and ratings. So when an ISV fills up a form to get software, please do respond to them, because some of our customers are very nice when they give reviews, and some of them write pretty strong reviews. So do make sure you actually respond to the customer when they show interest to your software. So we are in a data collection mode where we are actually, all the end users who have acquired the app till now has started receiving reviews and rating requests from us saying, hey, we know you acquired this app. Do you want to rate the experience? How do you think it's been? How do you think the ISV has been? Has ISV been responsive to you and all that? So we've started data collection. Once we get to enough number of reviews and ratings, you will see us show that up in AppSource. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly spend some time on these slides just to reinforce the fact. So this is what I was talking to as AppSource Toolkit, or this. Please don't take any pictures if you don't mind. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is what I've been referring to as AppSource solutions. The ability for you to actually build apps that actually uses Dynamics, Power BI, Power App, Cortana Intelligence, CDS, Azure. The ability to actually build app that actually leverages these components, tie it all together using AppSource, package it, list it on AppSource, and make it available. The next set, I briefly talked about this. This is basically allowing you to accelerate your journey. Start with the test drive, which is what you guys just saw, and use the same framework to actually start doing pilot, and at some point do production deployments. These are quick screenshots about the insights that some of you must have already started receiving. This basically talks about what has been your activity for your app in AppSource, what are the feedback, how many leads have you received in the last 7, 30, 90 days. Finally, last but not the least, engaging with the community, reviews and ratings and all that. Call to action. If you guys have app on AppSource, you know where to go list your app. Go to appsource.com. I'll show that one more time so you guys know what I'm talking about. Go to appsource.com. Go to list on AppSource. Get started. Submit your app. We have a very friendly and very helpful onboarding team who will actually work very closely with you, answer any questions you have, and get you guys onboarded ASAP. Okay, so that's one. The second call to action for you guys is, if you have apps that leverages multiple components from Microsoft, Azure plus CRM, CRM plus Power BI, any of those combinations, and you want to build a trial experience similar to the demo that I just did for Neal, you have a survey that's out there. This will be useful for you guys when I actually share this deck. But if you have an app, just walk up to me, talk to me. I'll give you my card. You guys can just reach out to me. I'll review your submission for your app, and if it fits the kind of application that we're looking for, we'll add you to the private preview for that program. Q&A, and before that, you guys can find me on Twitter. We try to tweet about new apps and all the goodness that's out there, or you can just email me here as well. So I believe we have 15 minutes, and I wanted to leave 15 minutes for questions, and now we have 17 minutes. So questions, comments? Yes?
Once the app is published and we don't want to make any change in code but just change the marketing material, do we have to go through the same process, or we just say edit any marketing material and do it?
Okay. So the question here is, if an ISV is already published an app, and all you need to change is basically the marketing material, do you need to go through the recertification process, basically? And which workload are you interested in? 365 for operation. Oh, okay. 5 for operations. Okay. So the reason why I asked which workload is the answer varies by workload. Okay. So for some workload, when you actually change the marketing material and you actually say, hey, publish, it for some reason goes through recertification, specifically because although sometimes it's just the marketing materials, we have seen few things being pushed through as part of that experience, so that's why we enforce it. But with that said, that should not be the case for all workloads. For operations, if I remember correctly, if your solution has not made much changes, and if it's the same solution ID, they do certify it faster. But for your changes to show up, it does need to be approved by the marketing, by the product team. So the reason for that is, let's say you come and publish something, and after you publish it, you have another competitor and you want to say, hey, my stuff is way better than his, and we just need to make sure that there is someone who looks at the content before it gets published. So it does go through the certification process, but it won't be as long or as intense as the first time you're trying to publish the app. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Is the question that how do I find the compat version for the platform for which the app works on? Okay, so I guess I'm the only one who didn't hear the question, but I'll just try repeating it one more time. Okay, so I believe the question was, if I find an app on AppSource, how do I find the version for D365 on which I can install the app? So, very good question, actually. So that's one of the feedback we received, and that we are working on at this point in time. So we don't, if I remember correctly, we don't surface that out across the board at this point. There are workloads for which we do. There are workloads for which we don't. So we are, that's one of the things that we have in the backlog with respect to actually show the supported platform version. So when an end user actually discovers the app, they know if it will work against their existing platform or not. Is that question very specific to D365 for operations? Okay, so if I heard the question correctly, the question was how do I make sure that these apps work well with other apps that's on AppSource? So this is how our existing users are doing it right now. There are improvements we're making there, but first things first, if it is for applications that actually support trials, the end user comes in, logs in with the creds of their sandbox environments, and they actually try to provision that into the sandbox environments. Again, not the best experience, but since acquiring the app is pretty seamless, few of our or most of our customers are okay to do that. That's one. The second thing, there are apps that actually work well with another app. So in those cases, a couple of things happen there. One, as part of the metadata itself, we have seen ISVs put out additional content that says, hey, this app works well with these 3 apps. That's one. Or what they also do is they add PDF docs and things like that. But again, it's something that we have heard from ISVs in the past, and we do want to invest in that, but we don't have a very good, this is the best approach for that right now, but feedback taken. Yes?
So for ISVs who are creating new apps, what's the best timing to get in touch with Microsoft in order to understand what needs to be done?
Okay, got it. So the question is if I'm an ISV who's building a new app, when do I get in touch with Microsoft to make sure the requirements are met and the certification criteria and things are met? So one thing that I like to say here is the earlier the better. Okay. With that said, I do have ISVs who have reached out to me saying, hey, I'm actually thinking of like my app today is for D365 for operations. I'm just thinking about adding ML. How do I do it? And there are ISVs who reach out to us like that, and we actually connect them with SMEs within Microsoft for the various workloads. Like, let's say your app does not do any Power BI elements right now, and you want to enable Power BI. So if there are things like that, I know we are AppSource, and we become the front for any ISV. So our goal is to make sure that you guys are successful. So if you guys have interest to, let's say, enable new features, new capabilities, not sure where to go, you can always reach out to us, and we'll actually guide you, help you. That's one. The second thing is one of the feedback that we have been receiving, and we have received in the last couple of sessions that I've done so far, is that, guys, it's so hard to find the criteria to meet. Because you do say that list here, fill up this form, but then after I fill up the form, I don't know what I need to do to be listed and what do you guys validate against, because the various workloads have documents in various wikis and PDFs and whatnot. So we are in the process of consolidating these requirements across the board. So you will see within like a month or two a consolidated, shared, almost like a dev document center, where you can actually come in and see the various requirements across the various workloads and see what you need to meet. With that said, if you guys are just starting to build an app, you have questions around it, just feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. Yes? Got it. Okay. So if I heard the question correctly, sorry, I'm just making sure I got the question correctly because of all this gap between us. Okay. So if I heard the question correctly, you have found an application in AppSource. You have acquired that application, probably got the licenses. You have installed it in the production environment, and 2 weeks down the line, the application is not working. Who is the support line of defense there, correct? Okay. So where AppSource comes into picture is we are primarily, right now at this point in time, we are primarily into the discovery phase, and where you can actually come and discover the apps that's out there, try it out and things like that. So once you make the purchase, while we do give you insights into the app, we don't do the support for the app itself. And what we recommend customers do is that's where the whole licensing story comes in. Once you license an app, you make sure that you have the right support contacts and things like that. With that said, I have had prospects or customers who have actually discovered an app in AppSource. They have tried the app, they love the app, they want it. The lead is going to an ISV, but the ISV for some reason is not interested in the business. So at that point, I've had ISVs, customers reach out to me saying, I really want that app. Can you get me in touch with the ISV, whoever it is? And we have done that in the past after the ISV says they're okay. The other thing is I've actually had ISVs who look at other ISV apps and says, hey, I want to collaborate with that ISV because we think if we go to market together, it's a way better story than me going alone. So at that point, we do check with other ISV and say, hey, there's someone who's an interest in your app. Do you mind if we can connect you? So we do things like that as well. But once you deploy it into production, the support story is something that you as a customer will have to establish with an ISV. And again, that's where tools like Lifecycle Services will come in handy.
So, can we automate the customer's Azure production instance? So, like if a customer wants an application, can our app connect with their production and then through PowerShell and then manage the instances there?
So the question here is, can my app connect to the customer's Azure instance and deploy that into the customer's instance? At this point, right now, what's available publicly, you cannot. But in a few weeks or months from now, once the AppSource solutions, the preview program that we have been talking about, goes out, you can almost imagine, if you guys are interested, let's do this. Okay, no screenshots. I mean, no photographs, okay? So, I might be oversharing right now, but you guys are a very interested audience, so I don't mind sharing a few things that's coming out new. All right, so you will have to give me a second until I can bring this up, because I'm just gonna find it. All right. Hopefully you can see it back there. So what we are working on, no photographs, please. Okay. So what we are working on is something similar to this in AppSource. So as you can see here, the experience that you saw earlier was a test drive. So in future, you can almost imagine, or you don't have to imagine, it's right here. You can almost see that there is a button that's going to say, get it now. And what this get it now is going to do is it's basically going to walk the customer through an experience where they can actually come and say, now that I've done a test drive, the test drive is always running an ISV subscription. It's a hot instance. If you guys remember the conversation we had earlier, it's a hot instance. It's running an ISV subscription. We tear it down and all that. But at this point, I'm interested in this application. I want to get in now. We will basically, the same engine that we use to automate that provisioning and deployment, we will open it up for ISVs to use. So at that point, if you have an ARM template, which basically has the various components that wires things through, plus let's say you should set partial, but I'm just going to glorify that by saying Azure function. And let's say that becomes the combination of your app. Then you can actually leverage the same framework to actually say, oh, this is my subscription deployed. But again, that gets to a point where we also need to figure out how does the licensing work and all that. Because once that IP goes into the customer subscription, how do you, let's say, time bomb it and things like that. So, but we're working through that. But this is I think you guys are the first to see this apart from my team. So. So this is where we are going with AppSource. Yes.
So if this is deployed to a customer's environment directly, and if there are conflicts with some other ISVs that they already have, then how do you plan to?
I knew that was going to come up. Okay, so as soon as we say, hey, this is going to go into customer's environment, the question is, hey, if there's conflicts, what do we do? Okay, so few things there. When we make it available for the first time, it'll always be new environments. So what that actually means is if I overlay that with the CDS world, I'm guessing some of you are familiar with CDS. So you can actually get something into your CDS instance, and that can actually be a new environment. So it's almost like a playground for you. And we don't expect and we don't want you guys to install this into production. That'll be a very bad call, because you don't want to get something from the web and say, hey, let me just install into prod and see how it works, especially not in the business app space. If it was Candy Crush, I wouldn't mind. But especially for business apps, just install it into your pilot or your pre-prod environment, see if it makes sense. And we might not have, especially because of the breadth of workloads we deal with, the way conflicts resolution happens in operations, it's very different from how you do it in CRM. Or as soon as you get into the Azure mode, what do you do now? Because it's an Azure resource. So, and let's say as part of that, you ran out of course. So there are a bunch of things that needs to come together. That's where, at least for the first try, it will always be bring in a new pilot instance. We will try to provision that into that instance, see if it works. If it does not work, there's always the ALM story that's there for Dynamics for operations or for CRM and things like that. That'll come handy. But the goal here is basically, as you guys see, 3 pillars that we are going against: reduce time to close a deal, reduce the time to value, because helping you guys do and helping customer get to pilot faster is going to help them seeing the value faster, and finally helping you retain the customer. So we're still working through what that story is going to be, but hopefully next session or the time post that when you guys are here, we might have a story for that as well. Any other questions?
Could you comment on any tooling for removing or uninstalling an app, or does that require at all?
Which product? Which platform?
Any app.
Okay. So the question here is, are we going to have any tools to uninstall an app? So it depends. That's why I said which workload. Specifically, it varies workload by workload. So the initial set of workloads that we are working with for this solutions preview, we might not have it as part of what we call the first scope. But we will give you some level of automation that you can use. Like let's say, for instance, today when we do the test drive that you just saw, after an hour we actually tear down the instance. Again, you can actually raise your eyebrows and say, yeah, that's so easy because it's on Azure. All you need to do is delete a resource group and you're done. But that same framework is built such a way that you can extend that to plug into custom ALM story. So let's say if it's CDS or Power App and things like that, you should be able to extend that to say, hey, run this, like with the whole extensibility in picture with logic apps and things like that, you can actually possibly give us a logic app that can actually do a subset of that for you. But again, it's very fresh. That's why I didn't even share this as part of the session. So we're still working through it, but if you guys are interested to be part of this program, just walk up and then we can see how best we can support you. Any other questions? Yes.
Let's say as a customer, I download an app and I put it into my environment in the future, like you just showed us.
You will always have to, so again, the fun of being AppSource. Okay, so the question here is, I actually got an app from AppSource, and will I be able to modify the app? So it varies workload by workload. So if it is, let's say, CRM components, you do need the ISVs to actually come in and ship a new package for you to start using. But let's say if it's in future, once we enable, let's say, Power Apps, Flow, and CDS. So with the current state of affairs, yes, they will be able to modify. But once this becomes like a package story, that's why even for the Power Apps, the test drive story is going to be very contained. And the Power Apps test drive as talked about is not going to go into the customer subscription, because we know that it's your IP. We know that that's how you guys make money. So we are very conscious around if we put something into customer subscription, we do make sure that they cannot modify it. But if it goes, if it can be modified, then it will be a quote-unquote shared ISV tenant where only you have access to actually host the app there. And when the test drive happens, we take the user to that instance. Okay. Any other? Yes. I didn't get the question, actually. Sorry.
Actually, if my app wants to read the customer operations application or like modify the do something, some business logic, can the app do that?
It will be very specific to your app. I'm not sure I can answer that right now, but let's catch up post the session, and I would like to understand more around the scenario and then give you a guidance one way or the other. Okay. All right. If you guys, I think you're over by 2 minutes, so thank you for sticking around. I hope you guys found this session useful, and thank you.